Welcome to this presentation of Profound UI and the DDS Conversion technology. Today we're going to have a look at three components of Profound UI. That's the rich display file development with open access, which includes the visual designer to convert and modify display files. The conversion of existing DDS to rich display file to convert from a green screen to a rich display file. And web-facing technology called Genie, which ties all these things together. So what is a rich display file? A rich display file is a complete display file for browser application development with standard RPG. And the key is standard RPG. It's designed to be immediately productive for RPG programmers. They can reuse their existing tool set. They know RPG well. They don't need to learn a lot of HTML, CSS or JavaScript to get started with rich display file development. So in a traditional green screen environment, you would have something like this. On the left, we have a green screen design tool like SDA or RDP, RDI, and you create a display file object. Then you go and create an RPG source member with RDP or SCU, and you create a green screen program. So what we do is we replace this component on the left. We remove the green screen display file and replace it with a rich display file. The same program can then be used, exactly the same program, and that will then run to create a rich web application in a browser. So a rich display file is obviously much more capable than a green screen display file. You can have components like widgets, like charts, graphs, checkboxes, text box, drop-downs, buttons, etc. to form the interface. But it also has standard record formats like fields, indicators, keywords, those things that are required to interact with RPG code. But it is standard DDS code, traditionally stored in QDDS source members, but the source is created by the visual designer that we provide as part of the package. It compiles with a standard create display file command or option 14 in PDM, and at that point then 50-50 is gone. It no longer exists. It's displaying a native GUI. So the rich display files are rendered by a JavaScript library that we provide with Profound UI. This runs actually in the browser on the PC, therefore offloading processing from the server. There's no special software required. All you need is a web browser. That could be Internet Explorer, Firefox, Chrome, Safari, etc. And supports many mobile devices as well, the common devices that are out there. The rich display file we'll be covering during the demo. That's a brief screenshot of it there. We'll be going into more detail. So how does this work? Well, IBM introduced a component into the RPG compile and runtime called open access. And in traditional RPG development, on the top you have an RPG program doing an operation like a read, write, execute format, and that outputs to a green screen. So when open access is used, the operation, instead of redirecting to the operating system calls, it redirects the output to a handler. So a handler is something that Profound Logic provides. It's not provided by IBM. And the handler then does whatever it likes with the I/O. In our case, it sends it to a browser interface. So the only difference you need to make to your program is to add this handler keyword on the fspec of your display file. So there's one line of code needed to change in your program. You then recompile over the rich display file, and the program that you've been developing for the past 10, 20, 30 years will still operate, as long as it's ILE programming. RPG3 will need to be converted, of course, to ILE. So DDS conversion is the main focus today. So this is the next step. Basically, it will convert an existing DDS green screen source member to a rich display file format. So this conversion is automatic. It creates a native object on the eye. Everything is maintained from that point on with the visual designer. And then obviously RPG programs remain the same, simply recompiled with that handler keyword added to the source. And then all 50 to 50 ties are eliminated. So this is the main focus of this demo today. So you can control many of the components of the DDS conversion, like the layout, the default button style, the function keys, are they on the left, on the bottom, what color, what font style, what subfile looks like. These are controlled with a template called a conversion theme that can be set up to suit. May include your company colors, etc. All of the, or most of the DDS keywords translate into rich display file properties automatically. So most of the coding, the logic, like validation of input, etc., might have keywords to control that, are converted to properties. The RPG logic is entirely reused, but no more green screen, none of the limitations that apply, and in most cases, minimal if no modifications are required, and you simply recompile. Let's start with the green screen application that we have here. I'm just going to put in option 1 to run our application. Here is a subfile listing some GPS devices under the category 101 navigation systems. I can page through them. I can put an option 1 on the first record here. I can see the details screen, and F6 will show me the details in another pop-up subfile. Pretty standard green screen program that we're going to see what we can do with. Let's run that in our product called Genie. This is a web-facing tool. That's not a DDS conversion, but it's the first step in modernization. It's basically a terminal emulator in a browser. So out of the box, you'll see that already some enhancements have been applied automatically in Genie. You'll notice that the function keys that were on the bottom of the green screen, let me bring that screen up. The function keys on the bottom have become clickable links on the left-hand side. Likewise, the menu items, 1 to 4, are clickable as well. So there's some of the out-of-the-box modernization effects you get using Genie. So let's run this same green screen program in Genie. You can see we've got a subfile grid here. We can do a page up, page down with this scroll bar, so that the program still gets its page up, page down. We can detect the strings like 1 equals select to view details. It puts it automatically in the drop-down box to run to the second detail screen. Click our link to show the details, and we can page up, page down. Basically the same thing running in a browser with some modernization and improvements. But let's see what we can do if we convert this green screen to a rich display file. If I go back to the Visual Designer, I have the widgets on the left-hand side. I have a ribbon across the top with all sorts of options you would need in an IDE such as this. I'm going to click the Convert button. I'll put in the source member of the DDS display file. Here we go here. Select it. We get an option to change the theme. That's the styling of the colors and the size, the font, etc. I'm going to select Hybrid. We also have this option to retain green screens. That's all the green screen components are stored in the display file if we check this box as well, so that can be run in a client access green screen environment as well. I'm going to leave this off for now. I'll go ahead and convert this display file by clicking the Convert button. So here's our display file. On the right hand side, you'll see all of the record formats have been converted faithfully. Here's the detail record in the middle here. Here's our so we have here the fields, the pop-up window with the subfile has been converted as well. So every record format has been converted in our rich display file. So all we need to do now is go ahead and compile this in a different library, for example. On the program, we need to add the handler keyword on the fspec of the display file, and then recompile this program over the display file. And that's it. The whole thing will run natively in a browser, not requiring web facing. This is what we get. You can see a subfile grid, but this time we have a scroll bar. This is a load all subfile. We can scroll through all the records without having to page up and down. Here's a nice feature, export to Excel. This is an option you can turn on and off, so the entire load all subfile can be exported to Excel for whatever purpose. A very useful feature and very popular with our customers. What you can also do in this environment is to click on the subfile headings to sort the subfile by that column. So this is done by the client. The program is really unaware of this. No program change required, but a very useful feature, one of the things that are available in this environment. You can see here that I'm dragging a subfile heading around where the little arrow appears. If I drop it, I can reorder the subfile columns. If I drop it here, you can see it reorganizes. Very useful for some users who want to organize the columns into a different order. Here's the control screen again, our pop-up window with the scrolling subfile. But in this case, we can move the window around and see what's underneath it. That's a different operation entirely to a green screen. Okay, let's go back to our display file that we created. Let's have a look at what properties are available on this canvas here. If I select this field, you can see that there are a number of properties on the right hand side. There's a field bound to the value property. I could also select a different color with a color picker. You can see the color changes here. I could change the font family, for example, change the font size. Many of these different properties can be changed to control the attributes of the widget. Many properties, all sorts of control on exactly what you want to do with your widget. Here are some left and top properties. They change as I drag the element around on the screen. Same with the width. You can see that expands and contracts. Or I could manually type the number in there, the number of pixels wide, to do exactly what I want. So there are many properties to control the actual widgets. What I can do also is bind a display file field to a property. So here I'm binding a 10 alpha field called color to the field, and I can then populate the color with RPG into that property. So most of these properties here can be hard-coded or bound to a field in the display file and controlled with RPG. Let's go and see what we can do with this particular display file. Let's expand this text box. I'd like to change this into a drop down or a select box. Allow the user to select an option rather than type it in. So the way I can do this is to select the categories file which contains all these options. That's a file back on the library. It's called categ-p, and I can then, with this little field picker, choose what options I want the user to see on the drop down. So that's category name. Then if they select one, the corresponding category ID will be returned back to the program. It's a 5 decimal field. You can see that the value property of this field here is a 5 decimal. That's what the RPG program is expecting. So we can very easily, without any program change, add these properties and make this a drop down. So I can go and hide this field here, which really no longer required. So let's select these three fields. Let's make them the same width, so it looks more like a web application rather than a green screen. That'll start to improve the look of it. I'd like also to work on this subfile. I'd like to change the row height here, adjust the columns a little bit. And on the left hand side here, there's a field called option, OPT, which is a 1 alpha. That's what the program is expecting to select the field to operate on. I'd like to delete this temporarily and then add it in a little bit later on. But for now, I'd like to grab an image and resize it slightly and drop it straight into the subfile. This allows me to display the product image in the subfile itself. Now you notice these fields PR ID, PR name are coming from a database file. There's also a field called PR image. So I'm going to bind the image source to this field called PR image, and that way the image name can come directly out of the database file as well. A very convenient way to do that. It's a 30 alpha field. I'd also like to be able to click on the row and rather than put 1 in the option field, for example. So I'm going to bind the field opt, which is, remember, it's a 1 alpha field, and put that to a special property called row selection or selection value. I'll put a number 1 here, so when I click the row, the field OPT will have a value of 1 put into it. It makes it very easy to operate, much more intuitive. So we go ahead and compile that. And if we look, I've already done that here. If we look what the effect looks like, this is what we get. A nice subfile with our images. Do a row click. Well, here we've got our drop down, sorry. On the top here, do a row click, and that will take us straight to the second screen. And our features operate the same here. So now if we wanted to modernize our program even further, let's put some features in that don't exist. Let's add some more RPG code. I'd like to perhaps add another subfile where we compare two of these products side by side. It means some more RPG coding to drive the subfile, but here's where we can really take the program beyond what you can do with a green screen. So I'm adding a second subfile here on the right hand side, and I'd like to be able to select two of the rows in the subfile and drag into this new one and compare them side by side. So I'm going to resize this a little bit. This first column I'm going to call features. I think let's adjust this a little bit more. There we go. So the first column is going to be called features. I'm going to remove the headings on the other two, and instead of having a heading, I'm just going to display the actual image of the product I selected. So I'm going to again get another image. I'm going to resize it slightly. And the first one I'm going to call image 1. That's important for later on. I'm going to bind the image source to a field called image 1 as well, and that will be a character field, length 30. So an easy way to make a second one is to duplicate it. So I'm going to change the ID of the second one to image 2, and I'm also going to change the field bound field to image 2 as well, just by modifying it. Just like that. So let's go ahead and drop those into the heading, image 1 and image 2. Also like to add the price while we're at it. So I'm going to drop a output field underneath each of those fields. It's going to be called price 1, and it's going to be a decimal 72. Again, we'll duplicate that and create a second one. It'll be called price 2, the name of the field, again a decimal 72. Let's go ahead and drop those under the images. Now the left hand column, I'm going to add another field called FE name. That's the feature name that we're going to list in our subfile. So this will be FE name, it'll be a character 20. So in our columns, we would like to add something like a checkbox to display whether this feature is available or not. That's perhaps a little old-fashioned. I'd like to do something a little bit more modern. I'm going to grab another image, drag it to a small icon size, and then I can display with an indicator called check 1 or check 2. So this indicator is controlled by the program whether the feature is available or not. But normally an indicator can be, for example, on, off, true, false, bold, hidden. In this case, I'm going to set a custom value and set it to yes.png for on and no.png for off. So there's two images on the IFS called yes and no, and they will display correctly in the column. So it's basically be a checkbox or an X. A very easy way by using a single indicator to control the name of the image. So here we go, I'm doing the same thing for check 2, and I'll drop them into the subfile there. And they'll appear as nice graphic indicators. So how are we going to select our rows to compare? What I'd like to do is drag from the left-hand side subfile and drop it onto the right-hand subfile to select two items to compare. To do this, I need to select on our left-hand subfile an option called Allow Drag. I set that to true. And then I want to say, okay, what fields can I drag it onto? And I want to drop it onto these two images up here, called image 1 and image 2. So on my subfile here, we've turned allow drag on, if I can find it here, and drop targets will be image 1 and image 2. That's the ID of the two widgets that I want to be able to drop these rows onto. And image 2. Okay, then back in the on the record format, I need to tell RPG what I've done here. So all RPG needs to know is what is the relative record number that I dragged. So here is DDRRN as a record number, and then where did I drop it. So that will be bound to a field. The field will contain either image 1 or image 2. So this is DD element at the 10 alpha, and it'll be populated with either of those two strings, image 1 or image 2, when I drag. So let's go and compile that and see what it looks like, and this is what we got in the last option here. So if I select and drag a row and drop it onto the first image, then a second row, drag it on the second image. All the complexities of a drag and drop are handled by the product, and RPG is simply driving two subfiles. So this is really what you can get in the world of rich display file.